Remote work is here to stay, whether you like it or not, but most of us like it, right? The pandemic has changed the way we work. And with a lot of companies considering return to work policies, for a lot of us, remote is the present and the future. And though we've had some time to get used to remote working, there's always room to up our game. So we took a look at what the experts are doing and have put together a list of remote working policies that you can steal from the experts. Keep your communication channels organized. Now, this tip comes from the communication overlords themselves, Slack. Essentially, it's just about making sure that different topics have different spaces to communicate them. Now, if you're using Slack or any other communication channel for your team, it's important to have a hub, a centralized space where there is communication, but to also have different topics subdivided into different areas. That way, messages don't get lost in the jumble of GIFs and memes and all sorts of other things. It's important to have them subdivided so that there is a rhyme and a reason to how you're organizing your organization's communication structure. 2, set clear tech and security guidelines. Now, this tip unsurprisingly comes from 1Password. Besides recommending that you keep all of your passwords in a specialized protected environment like 1Password, yes, you should not be leaving them on Post-it notes, they also recommend a suite of other precautions that you can take, making sure that work is done only on trusted devices, changing the default password of the Wi-Fi router that you're using, encrypting data when possible, and avoiding data storage on computers themselves. Of course, depending on the type of work you do, the level of security measures might differ, but safe to say that your password should not be password. Number 3, create and implement virtual meeting rules. Meetings are often the worst in person, and online they become even less savory. How many of us have had to say, "You're on mute, we can't hear you"? And be honest, how many times have you been the one that's being said to? Spotify decided to put in place a series of guidelines that everyone should adhere to. So here is the list of what Spotify recommends for their internal meetings. First, appoint a moderator who's responsible for letting in latecomers, and as well as dealing with any technical issues while the main speakers are speaking. Everyone else mutes their microphones while they're not speaking to avoid weird echoes. Turn on the camera for a more personal approach. Create an agenda so that the meeting doesn't get derailed. Use headphones if possible. Record the meeting for missing team members if you're covering an important topic, and if it's a meeting, then it should be an important topic. Turn on captions if you're having trouble hearing the speaker. And most importantly, pay attention to the actual meeting while it's going on. That can mean snoozing different notifications and actually paying attention to what's being said rather than checking your emails on the side. Number 4, think about the perks. Now, a lot of people, when working remotely, they're working on their dime and taking and expending their own resources for their work environment, using their own Wi-Fi, setting up their own workspace, drinking their own coffee. So you can take a leaf out of Etsy's playbook, who, for their remote employees, offer a certain stipend for setting up their home office workspace. They also provide a monthly stipend for office-related expenses, like Wi-Fi, office supplies, and so on. Here's another suggestion. We at DeskTime take this one step further. Because we have catered warm lunches for employees at the office, we also offer a bonus card for employees working remotely to offset the costs of having to take care of their own lunch expenses during the week. 5, provide space for in-person meetings. If your entire team is going remote, then you might be tempted to say goodbye to the office altogether. Now, before handing over the keys and dusting your hands from it, consider if maybe having a portion of that space dedicated to in-person meetings might be helpful for your team. Companies like Dropbox and Grammarly, who have gone the virtual first route, still have spaces where their employees can come and congregate when there are topics that should or are more efficiently discussed in person. As always, figure out what works best for your team and what they need most. While Dropbox, for example, has a no solo work policy, meaning that you can't just go there and work if you feel like it, your team might greatly benefit by having a few hot desks available. So you really have to evaluate your own company's needs and modify accordingly. Number 6, let your team work from anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I mean really anywhere. Spotify, for example, lets people work from different places in their region as long as it's kind of in the same area because of time zone differences and that sort of thing. Airbnb has a similar policy which lets you travel around the country you work in and work from wherever within it. It also has a policy that lets you work from anywhere in the world for 90 days, in contrast to Google's policy when they tried to implement a less salary for lower cost of living spaces. That did not fly. These kinds of flexible opportunities will not only keep your team happy, but also motivated to continue working for you, a great employer, because they're able to enjoy the benefits of the world on a daily basis. Not to mention, if you're allowing employees to work from anywhere in the world, that means that you open up your talent pool to the entire world. You're not limited to the one city where your office is in, so there are so many options to build up the best possible talent in your team. So those are just a few of our ideas on how you can organize remote work. Have you tried any of them, or do you have any suggestions on what might be attempted? If so, drop them in the comments below, and if you want more productivity tips coming your way, make sure to subscribe to this channel and give it a thumbs up. Until next time.